Hey guys, what's up? It's American Trekkie here, back with another Lego Star Trek video. In this video, I'll be detailing the changes, alterations, and structural modifications I made to my Lego USS Voyager model I debuted to you all the way back in October of 2022. This will be an exploration of the changes made, why I made them, and a teaser for future videos to come. Without further ado, I give you the USS Voyager. Now, I made really important changes to this ship because they were 100% necessary. I've been working on this specific Voyager model for the past almost a year, and as I've been going through the motions, making it more and more accurate, altering things that just didn't make sense to me, I've seen that this ship I saw over a few weeks ago that there was something constantly bothering me. It was the length of the saucer section. Now, the saucer section on Voyager to me has always looked long and slender. And of course, that's how it's supposed to look. It's an Intrepid class starship. How else would it look? But on my model, it was starting to look short and stubby, I noticed. And over time, this effect kind of got worse and worse until I decided to do something about it. Around a week ago, I decided to change it. I decided to actually change it. I remember I was playing Star Trek Online at the time, and I decided that this ship was just not going to work the way it was. So, I began working. I grabbed my Voyager model, got to my shipyard, which is really just my bed, dumped out the Legos necessary, and started construction. Construction took off, and it was relatively easy at first. I had a rough idea of my plan. I knew what parts I was going to use, but then trouble came. In my situation where certain Lego parts are scarce, I have seen the need to skimp on space. Leave empty spaces when necessary. And that caused a real problem for this ship in particular, at least in the beginning. Because normally what I would have done is plan the ship out using the bottom of the saucer section and build the outline and then build on top of it, like I did when I first constructed the original. But I didn't do that this time. Instead, what happened this time was I took the forward half of the saucer section, so this area right here, and I removed it because until I made the upgrade, or I made the change to the saucer, all I had to do was move the bridge. All I have to do was take the bridge off and then remove the underbelly section right here, and I could separate, and the phasers, and separate the forward half from the rest of the ship. Now, when I started seeing that leaving empty spaces was causing instability, the first time I had ever actually seen the phenomenon in detail, I was startled, because it was mainly happening here along the sides of the sensor palette. You might not see it now, but before, during the enlargement process, this section was an area of constant flux, right here. I had no idea what to do with it. Was I going to put plates here? Was I going to smooth it out? What was I going to do with it? I had no idea, and that showed in how the ship presented itself. It was constantly, as I tried to add pieces here, the plates were collapsing in on themselves. I had to put in bricks to keep them up from falling in, and it was a complete mess. It delayed construction days because I couldn't figure out how these sections would connect to bring the bow together, and that held me up for days. I tried changing the saucer altogether. That didn't work. I didn't know what I was gonna do. But then it hit me. Why do I have to go for anything new? I know what works. All I have to do is make it longer. So instead of grabbing more plate pieces and sticking them on the sides to make the ship longer, I decided to grab 4 6 by 12 triangle pieces and connect them, and just connect them together. Not connect them, and make that the forward section of the ship. With that out of the way, the underside was almost completely filled in, aside from some center plates, aside from a center plate here. And I see the shortage of pieces even shows in this ship with the gray rods here. Because if I had had enough pieces, these rods wouldn't be gray, but I guess they are. It doesn't really bother me as much as I thought it would. It's just something I prefer if it was different. But with the forward section done, I just had to figure out how the bow was going to come together. The bow was another issue. I didn't know what was happening with it. I just couldn't come up with a design. I don't know if I was too tired, too unfocused, but I just couldn't come up with a feasible design. Then I pulled something from the older ship, the last USS Voyager, the first large one I showed, and simply connected triangles to a greater flat piece, which worked. And I kept this configuration, and I'm choosing to keep this configuration. Now that I had all these details together, I could build the ship, and I did. I completed construction around 12:30 in the afternoon. 12:30 in the afternoon. So right at midnight, almost right after midnight. And I was tired, I was exhausted, so I put all the Legos away and I went to bed. I woke up and I had football practice. I did football, came back, and began to work again. This time, the problem was, how was this general section going to work? This section. Went through multiple changes, even had these gold pieces here lining the sides, but then I decided that I was just going to leave them as they are now. And unless anything happens and I get new parts, I think I'm going to keep them that way. But let's move back a bit and talk about this. Now, this area is able to be different because of a very simple reason. I changed the height of the ship. If you look at the last Voyager video, I believe the saucer was 1 stud shorter. Yes, 1 stud shorter, or 1 plate shorter. Now it might be 1 or 2 plates shorter, but I think it might have been 2. Anyway, the point is I made it taller. The reason I did this was because To me, it looked like the phasers were a little low, but now that I'm looking at the Bandai model that's in front of me, I realize now they're too high. But I'm not changing them because, again, I don't have the parts to. And I don't really want to. I like the way it looks now, and it doesn't really matter to me because it gets the look down for me, and because I've gotten past the fact that stacking is cool and it saves space. The stacking provides a layer of detail that I couldn't find with just the straight plate stacking like a pyramid. With the double stacking, I'm able to include more without having to widen or widen the ship, which I think is awesome. Now, with this, I simply decided to make it flat because, well, that looked nice, and it didn't need to change. I thought it looked okay, and it was fine. Now, something I'm really proud of is that all of the window placements are 100, if not mostly accurate. Most of the window placements, save for maybe this one, are accurate if you look on the Bandai model versus mine. The window placements, the large windows on the saucer, the placements for them are accurate, largely. Except for the big front windows. They're really supposed to be like back here. Like back a plate, but I didn't feel like doing that. And I just feel like this looks just a whole lot better. But something I might change later today is moving this whole window back a bit, because I'm looking at the model and the nameplate, like the flat plate extends all the way back. So I might move them all the way back too. But the point is that the windows are finally accurate. I don't know what was happening the last time I did these windows, but they are finally 100% there. Really proud of that. And I can also say that the bridge is accurate too. If you look really closely at the bridge, you'll see these triangle pieces that kind of curve into that kind of slope into the below a flat 1x2. This was an innovation I had in the middle of the night when I was thinking about how I can improve the bridge. Because when I look at this thing for a while, sometimes I think about things I can improve. And one of those things was the bridge. So I was looking at it and looking at it and looking at it, and I was like, maybe I should try indenting instead of raising. So I indented. I removed the trapezoid piece that was here, and simply I removed the trapezoid piece, the 2x2 triangle, and the 1x2 rail that was here, and simply the 1x2 rail and the 2x2 flat square, and redid the bridge. It took a while before I got the design I wanted, but this is it. And this didn't change with the lengthening. This was before the lengthening. A lot of these innovations happen before the lengthening procedure. The slope of the aft triangles I changed because now that the neck was longer and thicker, I realized I didn't need them. I didn't need the third triangle down to indent with the second one down. So I decided to change that. And if we look at the slope, because the ship is raised ever so slightly, because the top is raised, I had to create this apparatus where the sides go down and then they stop where the setter keeps on going. I think it looks okay. It doesn't bother me as much as I thought it would, because I guess I've gotten used to a lot of changes. I've had to make some compromises, but I'm happy with it. Everything stays pretty standard as we go down the spine, except for I moved the shuttle bay back and I raised the sides, like the, I don't know what to call them, not rails, like the sides of the shuttle bay doors. I raised them and moved them back so that you could see the nacelles from the side, like this, with this profile. I did a lot to get that profile. I also changed the nacelle length to one stud longer, so that it would look more accurate, and because, well, I thought that they looked a little stubby, so I wanted to make them longer. And I like the way the longer ones look. They feel nice. They look really nice to me. I added this piece right here to shorten the shuttle bay's height, because with the shuttle bay area being moved back a plate, there was not enough of a strong connection between the landing area and the nacelle connector, or the nacelle apparatus, or the warp apparatus. So I had to add this plate so that there'd be a stronger connection. Nothing much changes as we look to the bottom of the ship. I added some more details here. This wasn't just because I didn't have enough pieces, this was also intentional. Yeah, I lengthened the secondary hull. It's 2 studs longer, as you can see. There used to be a 2x4 plate right here, but now it's gone. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but for the past almost 20 minutes, Star Trek Online, the lobby music has been playing in the background, because I have not turned off my PlayStation. But anyway, hope you enjoy the music. CBS, please don't sue me. Yeah. So I've been trying to really just change the ship in a way that I wouldn't have to make any serious alterations until I get new pieces, until my OCD inevitably compels me to do something else. Yeah. Oh, and if you'll notice, the secondary hull is also taller. That was done because when I was playing with the original ship, the ship I debuted in January, which didn't really change in the 6 months, in the last months, it really hasn't changed that much. It was just some minor detail alterations, nothing serious. I decided to make the secondary hull taller because when I was playing with the other ship, I was like, why does it look so short? Like, it really does look real short. Like, it looked really small and spindly and weak and whatever. And I was like, that's not gonna do. This simply won't do, is what I was thinking. Like, no, this ain't it, Chief. Because I was like, why does it look like that? That's not how I designed my ship. So what I did was, I was originally just gonna change the deflector, because I was like, ooh, why don't I do it? I have the idea, I have the pieces, why don't I do it? I made it wider, and I was like, oh, I can make it more curved, like this one here. So that's what I decided to do. And in order to do that, I would have to make it taller. And using these rail pieces that only go on for so long, I was able to make the deflector more detailed while sacrificing the height of the secondary hull. Before the lengthening and increase of the height for the saucer, for a while it was the secondary hull that looked bigger than the saucer, or taller than the saucer. But when I increased the height of the saucer even more, it eventually gained, the proportions were put back in sync, which I thought was great. I changed the greebling around the arrow shuttle, and if I didn't have this in the last video, I have an arrow shuttle. But just in case I'm redundant, I made some modifications to it. Let me try to get it out. It's hard to get this thing. You know what? Oh, there we go. There we go. I got it. There we go. Trust me. Oh, nacelle. Hopefully you don't have a warp core breach. But I was trying to get the arrow shuttle to look better. So I just simply did this. It's a nice, simple build. The best arrow shuttle I've done so far, and I'm really happy with the way it came out. And the reason I have an arrow shuttle isn't just for detail. It's a funny story because I was in South Carolina during Christmas, and of course I brought Voyager. I was in Voyager fever at that time. So I decided to bring my ship, see how it does on a long-term trip. It was a 14-hour drive there, 14-hour drive back. And I realized that this ship is, unless I'm at home, this ship is way too big to be playing with. So it got me thinking, the thing it says I don't have enough pieces to build an arrow shuttle. Do I have enough pieces to build an arrow shuttle? And apparently I did. So I began building an arrow shuttle. I didn't have to scrap anything. I just took from some surplus pieces, didn't even know I had, and wham! I built myself an arrow shuttle. And now whenever I go on long-term trips where I can't bring Voyager and I feel like bringing something to fly around, I bring the arrow shuttle because it's a competent auxiliary craft that I made. It's a nice little ship. Yeah, and I increased the length of the oops, whoa, what was that? I increased the length of the phasers on the bottom because I just thought they should be longer to be proportional to the rest of the new saucer section, but I don't necessarily like the way they look right now. As you can see, they kind of arch over. They look a little square. Before the lengthening, the bottom phasers had this kind of corner plate piece connected like this, and I thought that looked really cool. But now, because of the lengthening, they're here, which I guess I'm fine with, but I don't really like it. Like, that's the one thing I really want to change in the future. And if I do, I'll post it in like a short or something. But yeah, I'll probably make that change. Another thing, for those who've been watching, this is when the loyal viewers show their loyalty to the channel. Who remembers the last time the sensor palette wasn't a group of grill slopes? For reference, dark gray versions of these pieces, right? Of these pieces right here. Dark gray versions of these pieces. Who remembers when the slope was just a fold out? Was just a folding flat plate? Anybody remember? Put it in the comments if you do. But yeah, I changed it back because, to be honest, in order for me to create that stark slope down from the nameplate that this ship has, zoom out right here, that this ship has, I had to make it just flat so I could direct it, so I could change its slope depending on what I wanted. And the grill pieces were not doing that for me, so I had to change them. Originally, when I made the change, I had the original problem I had with that strategy came to light. It was, if we look at it from a forward view, let me just move the camera back. It was blocking the front windows, which are already obscured enough because of the plate. It was blocking the front windows, and I just didn't like that. But when I raised the height of the saucer, I saw that, wow, that doesn't happen. I saw, wow, that's actually cool, because it's all flat now. This little hinge part is covered, and it looks all right. I thought it's cool. Now it works. Oh, and I lengthened it because of the lengthening of the saucer. And even though it's not entirely accurate in terms of length, even though, let me put it next to it. Oh, never mind. It's not entirely accurate in terms of positioning, because I could use some help with that. But in terms of length, I don't know if you can tell, but from where I'm looking, they're pretty similar in terms of length, actually. If you look at them, yeah, they're pretty similar in terms of length. It's just the shape is not right. But that can't be helped unless I was to draw on it, like I did a few years ago, which turned into a huge problem for me later on when I realized that, oh, I can put the phasers in the ship and build them instead of having to draw them on with Sharpie. But that's a conversation for another video. If you like this new USS Voyager update, please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next Lego Star Trek video. Live long and prosper.